Tonight, in our coverage, a new campaign urges Canadian Muslims to support only pro-Palestine candidates in the next federal election. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Elia Batul. President Donald Trump says he had an extremely productive conversation with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. In a social media post today, Trump expressed optimism about future cooperation, highlighting plans to meet Carney soon after Canada's upcoming general election on April 28th. This tone represents a notable shift from Trump's previous aggressive stance towards Canada, which includes controversial comments and tariff threats. The phone call is the first between Trump and Carney since Carney replaced Justin Trudeau 2 weeks ago. It occurred shortly after Carney strongly criticized new U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. Trump's administration recently announced a 25% tariff on foreign vehicles. Carney had previously emphasized Canada's intention to diversify its trade relationships beyond the United States. This marks a significant departure from historically close economic and security ties between the two nations. The Canadian Liberal Party has recently gained popularity ahead of the election, partially boosted by Carney's firm response to the U.S.-Canada standoff. A top Yale professor is leaving the U.S. for Canada, blaming what he calls an autocratic Trump administration crackdown on academic freedom. Philosopher Jason Stanley is joining the University of Toronto after seeing what he describes as a dangerous shift in university policies in the U.S. He says Donald Trump and his allies are pressuring institutions to suppress dissent. Stanley's decision comes after Columbia University has agreed to the government's demands of suppressing Free Palestine protests on the campus. If it fails to do so, it will lose up to $400 million in research funds. He warns this could trigger a brain drain, with top scholars moving to freer environments like Canada. Experts are warning that other academics may soon follow, as Washington targets institutions for alleged anti-Semitism without transparency. Canadian universities have confirmed growing interest from American researchers seeking a supportive space to continue their work. Stanley praises the University of Toronto for positioning itself as a global hub for democracy and free inquiry. He says Canada could become a new beacon for academic freedom. A new campaign is urging Canadian Muslims to vote based on candidate support for Palestine in the next federal election. The Canadian Muslim Public Affairs Council says it will endorse candidates who support justice and human rights regardless of party. The group has identified 89 key ridings with large Muslim populations. Over half are in Ontario, especially the Greater Toronto Area. Others are in Vancouver, Montreal, and Edmonton. Muslim voters could be decisive in at least 40 of these ridings. The group has launched a related website this week, muslimsvote.ca. It urges voters to choose candidates based on values, not party loyalty. Council head Khalid Al-Khazaz says the goal is to maximize support across all parties and encourage all candidates to take a principled stance on Gaza and Palestinian rights. The campaign won't endorse any one party. Instead, it will focus on individual candidates' views. So far, 74 candidates have backed the Palestinian cause. Most of them are from the New Democratic Party, followed by Liberals and Greens. None of the conservative candidates have shown support for ending the war in Gaza. Polls show 58% of Canadian Muslims rank Palestine as their top election issue. Most of them say Ottawa's response to Gaza has fallen short. Israel's pre-dawn airstrikes have killed 14 Palestinians, including women and children, in Gaza City and Khan Yunis. 3 people were killed when a missile hit a home in Gaza City's Zaytun neighborhood. Eyewitnesses report loud explosions as the Israeli army flattens more homes in northern Gaza. The fresh wave of attacks come after Israel resumed its bombardment on March 18th, collapsing the ceasefire and prisoner swap deal. Since then, 855 Palestinians have been killed and 1,900 injured. The United Nations World Food Program has warned of famine. No aid has entered Gaza for over 3 weeks. In Jerusalem, Israel has blocked Palestinians from entering the Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan for a fourth straight Friday. Thousands of Israeli army reservists are refusing to serve, protesting Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision. They are criticizing the removal of Shin Bet's chief and changing the Judicial Selection Committee. Meanwhile, negotiations to restart a ceasefire and hostage deal are underway in Doha. Egypt and Qatar are leading the talks with Hamas. Sources say the discussions aim to bring a truce during Eid al-Fitr and Passover and to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. Palestinian Health Ministry reports more than 60,000 Palestinians have been killed and nearly 114,000 injured since October 7th. Shocking allegations of systematic sexual violence by Israeli forces against Palestinian women have surfaced, but the Western media remains largely silent. This comes as Kifaya Khreim of the Women's Center for Legal Aid and Counseling details harrowing abuses at a United Nations Commission of Inquiry. She describes women in Gaza and the West Bank being forced to undress during home raids, molested, gang raped, and filmed by Israeli soldiers. Khreim says her team documented at least 30 cases of women stripped and sexually assaulted during raids. Many detainees are held without charges, photographed naked, and beaten on their genitals. They are tortured, denied food and sanitary pads to humiliate them. In a horrifying incident, an Israeli soldier exposed himself at a Hebron checkpoint and taunted a Palestinian woman to touch him. Khreim says female soldiers rape victims by inserting objects inside their genitals. She calls it a systematic trend of sexual violence being used as a weapon of genocide. The report notes that the Western media was quick to run unverified reports of Hamas-led mass rapes on October 7th, while it remains silent on Israeli sexual violence. It says this silence is part of a wider pattern of erasure, where Palestinian suffering simply doesn't fit the Western script. Canadians are raising red flags over shady text messages asking about their voting preferences, postal codes, and even their names. Canadians report receiving such texts from ERG National Research. The Canadian Research Insights Council says it has received several complaints. They are warning that ERG is not a member and should not be confused with the reputable Environics research. The council CEO, John Tabone, says these tactics are misleading and raise serious privacy concerns. Yet he admits it's unclear who exactly is behind the messages or what rules might be violated. Tabone says he has found that ERG and another group, Elect Right, share the same address. Elect Right has a bare-bones website, while ERG has none. Cybersecurity expert Ian Robertson says Canadians should not reply to these texts. Once they do, it confirms the number is active. He says even a postal code can pinpoint where a person lives. The texts have been spreading across Canada, with Alberta now the main target. With Ramadan coming to an end, there are many colorful Eid bazaars in the Greater Toronto area. Our reporter Sakinah Ghayyur is sharing the highlights she saw at Square One Eid Bazaar in Mississauga.
On the weekend approaching the holiday of Eid, the heart of Square One Mall transformed into a lively multicultural hub this weekend. The Run the World Eid Bazaar welcomed visitors from all faiths and backgrounds to experience the spirit of Ramadan and Eid.
I really like this environment. Like, it's nice. You never really see stuff like this in different malls or in other events.
The Eid Bazaar not only provided a platform for small businesses to showcase their work, but also created a sense of community in Mississauga's multicultural landscape.
It's really nice to be with other Muslim vendors and support each other and support other businesses. And Mississauga is such a beautiful place to do something like this, especially at Square One.
From families shopping for Eid gifts to visitors curiously passing by, the bazaar highlighted the unifying spirit of Eid.
It's an Eid event for the Eid, so we're also showcasing different cultures and different ethnicities that how we celebrate. And it's the spirit of Ramadan, the spirit of Eid.
Sakinah Ghayyur at Square One Mall, Mississauga.
And now for some special news for those living in the GTA, there is an event taking place before Eid. So mark your calendars and be sure to attend with your family, neighbors, and friends. The GTA Ramadan Festival presents Jashan-e-Chandrat, a special weekend of pre-Eid celebration. Note the place and time on your screens. The event will be held on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, March 28th, 29th, and 30th at Red Rose Convention Center, Mississauga. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News Canada. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. We will not be broadcasting on Monday and Tuesday for Eid holidays. Happy Eid to you all.